Hello everybody, this is week 1 for the discussion questions. So for the 3 videos that we had to watch and answer the questions. So here's what I gathered for the first video. Questions such as what happens in your brain when stress is sensed, and what did you learn about stress and hormone system, and what did you learn about stress and how it affects your brain. So this is what I got from that video. Stress affects brain size, it affects its structure and how it functions, right down to the level of our genes. This was very interesting. I did not know that it goes as far as the level of our genes. Actually, one of the videos even gave the example of the mouse and how the forespring of the mouse was affected a few generations, which is scary to think that it can happen to us and our children. Anyway, so stress begins with hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA, as it will be addressed later on or further in this video. This is a series of interactions of endocrine glands between the brain and the kidney. So this is interaction between the brain and the kidney, which controls our body's reactions to stress. When we face a stressful situation, HPA axis is instantly activated, which releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes our body for instant action. High levels of cortisol over a long period of time affect our amygdala, which affects our fear, or is in control of our fear. At the same time, the hippocampus, which is in charge of learning and memory and things like that, reasoning, is affected as well. The more stressed we are, the harder it is for us to retain information that we study. So, taking a self-care class, obviously the main idea is we don't want to be stressed to the point where we are reading the same paragraph or chapter over and over again, and for some reason we don't understand why we are not retaining this information. The reason, according to science, is that our hippocampus is stressed, and this makes it harder for our brain to retain information. Something that I found interesting was that cortisol can shrink our brain. So stress can literally affect the size of our brain. It affects the number of connections between neurons in our brain. The main things that the video mentioned was exercising and meditating and things like that to get over. But I would say whatever does it for you, get out there and take care of yourself before you do anything else. As these other 2 videos emphasized as well. In the second video that we had to watch, the questions were: is it taking care of yourself an indulgence or a necessity? Obviously it is not an indulgence. Obviously it is a necessity, mostly because we need to take care of ourselves. We need to make sure that we are healthy. It is for the sole purpose of self-preservation, to quote the lady in the video. But the fact that it is even a question, if it is an indulgence, to me it shows a lot about our society and where we are with our priorities. The other question is, why is our responsibility to take care of ourselves? Just like the lady on the plane that the video showed, we need to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before anyone else. We must do the same thing in life. Most of us are, in a way or another, responsible for other people in our lives as well as ourselves. Some of us have kids, some of us have parents, grandparents, wives, husbands, brothers and sisters. So we like it or not, we affect other people's lives, so we need to take good care of ourselves. Why is self-care revolutionary? It is revolutionary because it is a shift in power from institutions or other people. This is quoting the lady in the video, to the individual. We have the power to take care of ourselves, and we must exercise this power. It definitely is revolutionary because we're not just sitting there and waiting for other people to take care of us, but we are taking care of ourselves. We are taking that power within ourselves and making it happen, hopefully. How does the speaker define self-care? What does she do? Something that really stuck with me was the first thing that she said was that she removes shame and guilt in order to get rid, or in order to deal with stress, and in order to take care of herself. She takes care, she removes anything, tries to remove shame and guilt from her life, and anything that is related to these two factors, and brings these negative feelings in her life. He has this, if we sit down and take a few minutes and think about it, I'm sure that we can all find out what brings shame and guilt into our lives, and figure out how we can remove those. Then she practices rituals of self-care. She said that she writes to process her emotions. She spends time with her community. This makes her feel whole. And in the end, she said about choosing optimism. This was a great video, I thought, mostly because it gave me quite a few ideas of what I can do to take care of myself, or for self-care. In the third video, this I would have to say was my favorite video. The first question is, what is compassion fatigue? And it is what we receive vicariously through trauma. So basically, so if somebody has experienced trauma, if somebody has whatever traumatic experience they have gone through, and we are working with them as social workers, as therapists, or anything in this field that we have chosen, that is what compassion fatigue is when we receive so much of it that we kind of we feel off balance. The other question is, who experiences this? We experience it. The lady in the video mentioned about doctors can experience it, social workers, counselors, therapists, definitely the people that deal with helping other people as a career. What is the difference between burnout and compassion fatigue? This was very important because as she mentioned, until the 80s, people confused them, or actually until the 80s there was no such thing as compassion fatigue because there was no research done, so people just called it burnout. Burnout is when you're tired and worn out, basically not liking your job anymore. Compassion fatigue has to do with being afraid. Compassion fatigue changes your heart, and I would go even further and say that I would imagine even changes your brain, the wiring in your heart and your brain. It basically changes who you are. The other question was, what are the invisible badges? The invisible badges is when the lady in the video was talking about how a nurse or a doctor can say, I worked 2 shifts, or I stayed up all night with this client, or a social worker can say something like, I drove for 3 hours with a certain client to make sure that they got home safe, and that meant that I had to get home at 12 or 11 at night, and things like that. However, we must be careful because what happens is that afterwards, when people are feeling, or people use these badges, the good behavior, the good actions that they have taken, they have performed, they use them as excuses for a bad action, such as, I stayed up all night with a client, that's why I'm a little cranky today. I drove up and with a client, and I came back home at 11, so I'm not going to come to work today. Or that's why I'm a little upset today, I'm a little short-tempered today. We must watch out for things like this, which become a self of entitlement. Can it be treated? Can compassion fatigue be treated? Absolutely. Basically, the idea was take care of yourself. The lady in the video mentioned just 10 minutes a day. I'm sure that we can all find 10 minutes a day to just do something that is not work related or is not related to anything that brings stress in our life. What are the 2 activities that you have chosen for self-care? I actually took myself a little bit, not out of my comfort zone, but I just thought to do something that I haven't done in a while. So I chose to color. I haven't really done any coloring, and this was because I actually did see that someone else had put that down in our other assignment as an option. So, I thought, why not? So what I did is that I chose a couple of pictures online, wolves and owls and things like that. And I'm gonna take myself back to when I last did this, which was, I believe, elementary school, and I'm gonna color for a while. Let's see. Yep. The other thing that I chose is to take my time and go for a walk. I am lucky enough to, or we all are, but I consider myself lucky to live in a place like Jackson Hole, right next to the Tetons. So I'm gonna take my time and go for a walk, which I haven't done in a while as well. And when I have done this, I have enjoyed it, so I am sure that I will enjoy this as well. And looking forward to maybe give you an update next week on how things are going. So yeah, thank you.